but life is unpredictable. As much as we try to like put rules and regulations and timelines, and life's unpredictable, right? And so we don't really have control on many things, but we want it. Today's question comes from Forrest. Forrest asks, I know I'm really hard on myself, but I don't know how to fix it. Any ideas? So when we're being really hard on ourselves, what's happening is the critical parent is bossing around the inner child. That's the dynamic that's happening internally. Okay? So the critical parent is criticizing that inner child. And so we feel, at the same time, we feel annoyed with ourselves, but we also feel bad about ourselves, right? Because both of those parts are having a conversation. So the way out of that, the way to resolve that is to introduce the loving adult, right? That wise part of our mind that just says, it's okay. It's going to be okay. We don't need to do this to ourselves. We don't need to berate ourselves and put ourselves down, and don't need to do that. Okay. So that's the first thing I wanted to teach you about, like, why do I have this? I'm really hard on myself. Yeah, because it's that tells me it's the critical parent that's in charge, right? And all the other parts kind of have to go along with whatever the critical parent wants. And there's another option, right? And what it requires is a softening inside of you around control. So many of us like to have control, right? Because when we have control, like things are predictable and we know what's happening and we can prepare ourselves, but life is unpredictable. As much as we try to like put rules and regulations and timelines, and life's unpredictable, right? And so we don't really have control on many things, but we want it. We want to have control. And that critical parent tells us we can have control if we try harder, if we work more, if we, add one more thing to our agenda. Like maybe if we start meditating, or maybe if I start like going to the gym 3 times a week, then I'll be happy. Or maybe if I, end up finding that true love of my life, then I'll be like, just do more and you will be happy. That's the critical parent's advice. Whereas the loving adult says, stop it. Just stop, breathe, look around and think about what's working. Look around and think about what you're grateful for. That's the voice we need to start cultivating if we're one of those people that's really hard on ourselves. Okay, so that's the first one. Second part is, and this is another concept in psychology, where we say that from an unconscious level, okay, so a deep unknown level that we are not aware of, everything we do has a reason. So even the things we do that are kind of seemingly dysfunctional, even those things have a reason. Dun, dun, dun. So it might be hard to wrap your head around that, right? Because you're like, but why would I binge out on chips at like 10 p.m.? There's no reason for that. Like it's a bad habit and I want to change that habit. Let me tell you about my binging on chips at 10 p.m. story. So that was me. That was like totally me. I don't know if I've mentioned it in this channel, but I'm a recovered food addict. I was obese and I've lost almost 100 pounds and maintained it for 6 years in the making of this video. But I used to be that person that would binge eat at night. And, when I came across this idea of like, we do everything for a reason, I was like, but what would be my reason to continue to sabotage my weight? Like, I don't think there's a reason for that. Like, why would I do that? As I lost the weight and as I've been keeping it off all these years, what I realized was that being heavy helped me to stay invisible. It helped me to just kind of slide into the background of things and not really take center stage. Now, if you're heavier and watching this, I'm not saying that's your story. This was my story, but I realized that there was a reason. There was a reason for those behaviors because it just maintained my self-identity as an obese person. I just kept maintaining that identity. Obese people binge on chips at night, right? I don't have that identity anymore. And I don't need that protection anymore. If I want to be in the background, I shift to the background. If I want to be up front, I come up front. I don't need my body to create barrier for me. Now, that was like a very deep, that understanding came after a lot of like really heart-wrenching, soul-wrenching personal work with my therapist, in groups, and just really trying to figure out like what is happening here, right? And again, I'm using the example of weight. You can pick anything that you're doing that you're saying, this is not a great habit that I have, but what if there was some reason for it? Maybe like a philosophical, like, deep reason that you never thought of. So one of the ways to figure that out is, besides like, going to therapy and whatever, all those other things, is to journal about it. So what is it I gain from binging on chips at 10 at night or 2 in the morning or whatever? What is it I gain from, I don't know, avoiding my daily walk? What is it I gain from being angry at my boss? Everything we do, there's some reason for it. There's some adaptive reason that we started it. And that reason, like, it might not fit anymore. Maybe it's just become a habit, right? It's just something you've done for so long that you don't even actually think about it anymore. You just do it. But journaling about it, writing it down, seeing what comes, that's a way of starting to change it, right? Making a decision that doesn't have to be like this. I could make a different choice. So that would be the second one is, what's the reason that you're doing, when you're hard on yourself, like say you're hard on yourself about what? I'm hard on myself. What is being hard on myself getting me? Maybe it's allowing me to stay stuck in the internal world and not actually look out at the external world. Maybe it's allowing me to fit in with my family, right? Because all of us are hard on ourselves. That's just what we do, right? So just get curious about that. The third thing I would say is your environment, right? And your people. So who are you surrounding yourself with? Are you surrounding yourself with people who are hard on you or hard on themselves? Because then you're going to see it everywhere you go. And they say you are the sum total of the 5 people that you spend the most time with. So if you think about, okay, who are the 5 people I spend my most time with? And are those people who are really hard on themselves? Or are those people who are really hard on me? That will make a difference. And if you're finding that, oh yeah, actually I'm around a lot of people that are hard on themselves and they actually pride themselves in that, right? They're like, oh yeah, I didn't do, like, it becomes this juicy story about how they failed again. Well, maybe it's time to start like opening your eyes to other possibilities of who you might surround yourself with. And I'm not saying to cut anybody off or like kick anybody out or any of that. It's more adding people who are living the kind of inner life that you want to have. So they're not actually being hard on themselves. They're being forgiving with themselves. They're being patient with themselves. They're being humorous with themselves, right? So that's what I would suggest as far as action is the journaling to find out what could be the hidden reason behind this. And then the second is looking around you and inviting more people in who are not hard on themselves. So those are my thoughts for today around that question, like, I'm really hard on myself, I don't know how to fix it. So the first is thinking about the voices and that critical parent inside. The second is, what are my reasons? And then the third is who's around me. Hopefully that was helpful. If you have questions that you want me to answer in a future video, send me a quick email. There's an email address at the end of this video. And check out the other videos on the channel. There's lots of interesting stuff to look at. Feel free to like and subscribe and pass along, and I'll see you next time. Bye.